evening, Canterbury. Welcome to Newsmakers, where we debate the week's big issues, and it's a political affair this week. It's a pleasure to welcome aboard Cabinet Minister and National MP Kate Wilkinson, and Labour frontbencher, the MP for Waimakariri, Clayton, Cosgrove. Thank you very much for joining us.
Happy New Year.
And to you. We will begin with the growing dole queue. It was revealed yesterday that the unemployment rate has soared to the highest level in a decade, 7.3%. And that's beyond the 7% marker that John Key projected would be the peak. And he projected that last year. Should the Prime Minister be trading in his rose-tinted glasses?
No, but it is always disappointing, of course, when the unemployment rate goes up like that, and it's very hard for the families and for those unemployed who are actually looking for jobs. But having said that, you would have heard the Minister this morning on radio saying that in January 3,000 people have gone off the unemployment benefit into jobs. So there are some positive things too, but that doesn't mean that we can rest on our laurels.
The fact that the rate, though, is beyond what the Prime Minister said would be, the end point, does that suggest, does it expose National for taking a bit of a she'll be right attitude to this? No,
I think you've got to be aware too that there's a bit of a lag effect, and if you look at the business confidence, it's starting to grow, but the unemployment figures don't reflect that because it's what's happened in the past. It has risen 0.8%. It's still 0.8% too much, of course, but we still have to be confident. We still have to give businesses confidence to employ people, and that was one of the balances, of course, that we had to make when we were setting the minimum wage, to make sure that it wasn't so high that it overpriced people out of the market and actually made the unemployment worse, but it also gave businesses more confidence to actually employ people.
Clayton, on the local front, I know that Canterbury has bucked the national trend and that the regional unemployment rate has dropped to 5.7%. That is surely cause for celebration.
Oh, it's good, but if you look at the history with Canterbury, we're normally first in and first out, and because we have quite a manufacturing base. But let's be clear on a couple of things. This is the highest increase, quarter increase in 16 years. In the last 3 months, 18,000 people out of work. That gives us 167,000. And the Prime Minister said before Christmas, and I quote him, "I think people should be confident about their circumstances and their jobs being retained. I'm happy with the trend," he said. What this proves is, and if you compare us, say, to Australia, look what Obama's done in terms of calling for a massive jobs bill, training. Mr O'Reilly from Business New Zealand on the air this morning on Radio New Zealand saying, "I'm disappointed. There is very little training happening. The polytechs," he said, are chocker. People want to get in. The government's refusing funding. Why aren't we actually training people and putting them into real work? Not 6 months. You can go and get a bit of work experience, but you don't come out with a qualification. And it proves that the Jobs Summit, Mr Key said it wouldn't be a talk fest. It's proved it is a talk fest. The Reserve Bank predicted that this would be 7%. This is well over their projections. And look, politics aside, this is about average Kiwis who are scraping for it. The worst thing that can happen in your life, one of the worst things, is you lose your job, your dignity, and you can't provide for your family. The government isn't doing anything. That's the problem.
Okay, can I just zero in on youth unemployment, because nearly 20% of under 25-year-olds are now on the dole, nearly 20%. And at the last election, National trumpeted its youth guarantee policy that was supposedly going to ensure all under 18-year-olds were either in work, education or training, yet 45,000 of them are on the dole. What's gone wrong?
Well, I think there is some positive stuff in the Job Ops and Community Max scheme, which has actually given 5,000 young people jobs. But I'd have to say that if the minimum wage went up to $15 as Labour wanted, there'd be another 8,000 people that would be looking for jobs who would be unemployed, and most of those would be young people. Because if you've got a choice, if you're a business and you've got a choice to take on a 16-year-old at $15 an hour, which is what the rate they wanted, or take on a 25-year-old with more experience, you're more likely to take on the 25-year-old. So we were concerned that we don't outprice, especially young people, from the market. And again, if I can just finish, Clayton, thanks. And again, our 90-day trial period we're finding is anecdotally working well for young people as well. But they can knock on the door and say, "Give me a chance because I haven't had a job before."
Okay. Just before I come to Clayton, when are you actually going to deliver on this promise of this youth guarantee? When are these 45,000 people currently on the dole going to actually be gainfully doing something? Oh,
we're working very hard throughout the tough times. It is tough times. We've been in an economic recession. And we are proud of the fact that actually the number of job losses could have been a lot more I'm not saying it's good enough, but
when is the guarantee going to be delivered? 3 years, 6 years, 9 years?
Oh, I can't give it. I can't.
But not in this term?
We're working our way through all the policies which will fit together, which actually give confidence and which actually will help the job market.
With respect, that's just words. Mr O'Reilly, Business New Zealand, said this. He said he disagrees with the government that are capping universities, capping polytechs, refusing to give extra money for training when you've got young people lining up at polytechs, got no alternative, who actually want to do real training. 3,500 to 5,000 young people in apprenticeships, gone, their jobs gone. The government's answer is this: we'll throw a bit of money, 5,000 at a business to help them. That's a good thing. We'll put you on the minimum wage. We'll give you 6 months' work doing something, as Mr O'Reilly, I think, called it, the danger is make work. What happens after 6 months? You don't have a qualification, you haven't got any further ahead. Yeah, you've done something, that's great, but to an employer, to a business, are you any more employable? What that is shifting people off the unemployment queue and sort of ducking them into a job scheme for 6 months. Where's the training? And if we're in a recession, we've got off lighter than most of the world. Why is it President Obama, Mr Rudd and others are pouring massive amounts of money into training, into jobs? We had a job summit.
Well, the American unemployment rate is 10%.
And the country's a lot bigger. And you have a look, and all we got there was from Ms Wilkinson, who is the Labour Minister. She's responsible as I can't guarantee the youth guarantee that I guaranteed at the election.
All right. Just a quick comment on the minimum wage. I know you referred to it. I just wonder, given that your Labour Department officials advised you to increase it by 60 cents an hour, the fact that you've only delivered 25 cents an hour, which actually is only, less than 20 cents in the hand.
It's a decrease. If you take in the ACC increases and all the other increases, it's a decrease.
All right. The conclusion to my question was, do you think in hindsight, Minister, it may have actually been better to offer nothing?
No, we still wanted to give confidence to people. We linked it to inflation, to the CPI, so it actually maintained that relativity. We didn't want to price people out of a job, and in fact it turns out that the 2% increase, which was what it was, and I know it's modest and it was cautious.
It's stingy, isn't it?
It still reflects the average wage growth. Now my department gave me 3 options, which was status quo, which was a nil increase, $12.75, which was linked with inflation, $13.10, which was then the average wage growth, or the Labour Party's preferred option of $15, which actually would have cost us about $1.7 billion and 8,000 jobs, and $16.75, which.
It's interesting that in Australia they've put the minimum wage up, in other countries hasn't cost jobs at all. And when I stood beside Kate in Rangiora and we talked about the minimum wage at the election before she became Labour Minister, she refused and said it was outrageous that you'd raise it at all. And she and her government voted against every minimum wage increase in 9 years. Now she might grin.
Rubbish.
So you voted for them. They voted
right.
against every increase in 9 years, and Kate might say it's rubbish, but I can produce the Hansard.
You don't get to vote on the minimum wage because it's actually the minister's decision. So I mean,
you voted against every bill to raise the minimum wage. You voted against it in 9 years.
I'd have to say, Mike, to be perfectly honest, we would love the minimum wage to be $15 an hour, or even more if it was sustainable. But unfortunately, we don't believe it's sustainable in these tough economic times.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll take a break and we'll just cover off a few other matters pertaining to the minimum wage in a moment, and also coming up, national standards or national shambles. That's next.